At 100,000 tons, the USS Gerald R. Ford was the most expensive weapon ever built. Right now, it is sitting in a Greek harbor, and it won't be combat ready for at least 14 months. What happened, and what it means for the war in Iran, is a story the Pentagon has barely begun to tell. At 100,000 tons and over $13 billion in construction cost, the USS Gerald R. Ford is the most expensive warship ever built. It is the lead ship of a new class of nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, designed to define American naval power for the next 50 years. And right now it is sitting in a dry dock in Crete, Greece, out of the war, out of action, and facing repairs that could last 14 months. The official explanation is a fire. On March 12, a blaze started in the ship's laundry area, burned for more than 30 hours, left nearly 600 sailors without sleeping quarters, and forced the Navy to pull the carrier from active operations in the Middle East. That is the version the Pentagon has confirmed, but there are layers beneath it that the official briefings don't fully address. Here's what we know for certain. The Ford had been deployed continuously for nearly 10 months before the fire. It had launched thousands of strike sorties as part of Operation Epic Fury against Iran, beginning February 28. Its mechanical systems, including drainage, plumbing, and launch equipment, had been under sustained high-intensity pressure with no maintenance window. The fire was not the cause of the withdrawal. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. The repair timeline is the number that matters. Not 2 weeks, not a month, 14 months. That is the estimate, covering fire damage, structural repairs, deferred maintenance backlog, and the known systemic issues that have plagued the Ford class since the ship was commissioned in 2017. For the U.S. Navy, that timeline has consequences that extend well beyond one ship. Stay with us. Let's examine the fire carefully because the gap between the official account and the questions swirling around it is significant. U.S. Central Command confirmed. The fire originated in the ship's main laundry facility on March 12. A dryer is cited as the likely ignition source. The blaze spread through adjacent areas before being brought under control after 30-plus hours. Approximately 200 sailors were treated for smoke exposure. At least one required medical evacuation. Now, the question that has not been answered, multiple reports, including one cited by Western media outlets, suggest that the fire may have been deliberately set by crew members acting in protest against the deployment to the war zone. This is an unverified claim. The U.S. Navy has officially launched an investigation into the cause. No findings have been publicly released, but the allegation itself, that active duty sailors may have sabotaged their own ship, is extraordinary and cannot be dismissed without evidence. What can be verified is the human impact. Nearly 600 sailors lost their sleeping quarters and personal belongings. For a crew of 5,000, that is not a minor inconvenience. It is a significant disruption to the human infrastructure of a warship. The fire also came during what was already one of the longest uninterrupted deployments in modern Navy history. Crew fatigue was not an abstraction at that point. It was a documented operational reality. The investigation is ongoing. Until its findings are published, the cause of the fire remains officially undetermined. What we can say is this: whether accident or deliberate action, the outcome is the same. The Ford is gone, and that gap is something Iran noticed immediately. To understand why a single fire can sideline the world's most advanced warship for over a year, you need to understand what the Ford actually is and what it has been struggling with since it was commissioned. The USS Gerald R. Ford is the lead ship of a new class, meaning it is the first of its kind. And first-in-class ships carry a burden. Every new system, every innovation, gets tested in the real world for the first time. Problems appear that simulations never predicted. The Ford's two most significant innovations are its electromagnetic aircraft launch system, EMALS, and its advanced arresting gear. Both were designed to replace the legacy steam catapult system and increase the number of aircraft sorties per Dalton Y while reducing crew requirements. Both have experienced persistent reliability problems since the ship entered service. The Navy has worked through many of them, but the systems have never achieved the stability originally promised. Layer on top of this the plumbing and drainage problems that persisted throughout the Iran deployment. These are not exotic failures. They are the kind of systemic degradation that happens when a complex platform operates at high intensity without maintenance windows. The Ford was deployed first in the Caribbean in January 2026 during operations in Venezuela, then redirected to the Middle East without a full maintenance period. The ship essentially ran without a pit stop through 2 consecutive high-demand deployments. The result is a maintenance backlog that now has to be addressed in a single compressed period. The fire damage gets repaired. The deferred system work gets done. The structural wear from months of combat operations gets assessed. Put all of that together, and 14 months is not an exaggerated number. It may, in fact, be optimistic. And none of this would matter less if there was a second carrier ready to step in. There isn't. With the Ford out, the USS Abraham Lincoln is now the primary U.S. strike carrier in the region. That shift in itself is a significant change. The Abraham Lincoln is a Nimitz-class carrier, proven, capable, and highly reliable. But the U.S. is now operating with a single carrier in a conflict zone, where, until recently, it had two. Redundancy is not a luxury in naval warfare. It is a strategic requirement. When one ship needs to refuel, rearm, or reposition, the other maintains presence. With one carrier, that buffer disappears. Iran's military has taken note of exactly this. On March 25th, Iranian naval commanders publicly announced that the Abraham Lincoln was under constant surveillance, and that it would be engaged if it moved within range of Iranian coastal missile batteries. This is not an idle threat. Iran possesses shore-launched anti-ship cruise missiles, systems like the Qudaider, specifically designed to fly at low altitude, evade radar, and strike high-value surface targets. Aircraft carriers are the highest-value surface targets that exist. On that same date, March 25th, Iran claimed it successfully struck the Abraham Lincoln with cruise missiles. The U.S. denied this immediately. U.S. Central Command issued a statement the following day stating that the carrier continued flight operations, that no missile came close to hitting the ship, and that aircraft were continuing to launch against Iranian military targets. President Trump confirmed that approximately 100 Iranian missiles had been intercepted and that not one had struck an American target. No independent imagery or satellite evidence confirmed a hit. The most plausible explanation, consistent with the confirmed facts, is that Iran launched a large missile barrage, U.S. air defenses engaged and intercepted, and Iran subsequently overstated the result for domestic and regional audiences. That pattern has appeared repeatedly throughout this conflict. But what the episode reveals is this: Iran is actively probing whether a single carrier can be overwhelmed. Here is the question that sits beneath all of this. If Iran can fire 100 missiles at a carrier strike group, how many does it have left? The answer, based on US intelligence reporting cited by Reuters on March 27th, is uncertain, and that uncertainty itself is the problem. American and allied forces have confirmed the destruction of roughly one-third of Iran's total missile arsenal since the conflict began. A second third is assessed as likely damaged, destroyed, or buried under collapsed facilities. The remaining third is unaccounted for. That missing third matters because it contains anti-ship missiles with ranges that can reach the Persian Gulf from deep inside Iranian territory. U.S. carrier strike groups are built with layered missile defense, Aegis-equipped destroyers with SM-series interceptors, electronic warfare systems, and close-in defense weapons. This architecture is highly effective. It is not, however, unlimited. Each intercept consumes a missile. Magazines are finite. A strategy of persistent, high-volume missile salvos exploits exactly this constraint. U.S. Central Command and Israeli intelligence have jointly assessed that most Iranian facilities used to build missiles, drones, and warships have been destroyed or badly damaged. That is the positive headline. The realistic caveat is that most is not all, and that pre-positioned stockpiles of already built weapons can survive facility destruction. The hardened underground storage networks across western Iran, including the so-called missile cities beneath Qeshm Island, are designed to survive exactly this kind of sustained air campaign. The bottom line, Iran still has weapons. It still has the motivation to use them. And with the Ford out of the fight, it has fewer targets to worry about. But the one that remains is the most visible symbol of American power in the entire region. No analysis of the Ford's withdrawal is complete without addressing the information war happening alongside the military one. Commentary figures, including America First host Nick Fuentes, have publicly claimed that the fire story is a cover-up, that Iran directly struck and disabled the Ford, that 13 U.S. military bases across the Middle East have been rendered inoperable, that the Pentagon is systematically lying about the extent of American losses. These are extraordinary claims. Let's examine them against what can be verified. What is verifiable? The Ford is out of action and in Greece. Fire damage and accumulated maintenance issues are confirmed. The ship will not return to operational status for many months. What is not verified? No imagery, no satellite evidence. No third-party source confirms that Iran struck the Ford directly. The U.S. Navy explicitly confirmed that Regarding U.S. bases, Iranian and allied forces have conducted repeated attacks on American installations across the Middle East since this conflict began. Some bases have sustained damage and disruptions to operations. This is documented. The specific claim of 13 simultaneously inoperable bases and soldiers living in hotels has not been confirmed by independent reporting or U.S. military acknowledgement. That doesn't make it impossible. It makes it unverified. And those are different things. What all of this tells us, the competing narratives, the unresolved fire investigation, the official denials, is that the information dimension of this conflict is as contested as the military one. In the absence of verified evidence, every party has an incentive to shape perception. And perception, in a war, has strategic consequences of its own. So what does the loss of the Ford mean for the next phase of this conflict? In the near term, the U.S. has compensated by deploying over 4,500 Marines and sailors from 2 amphibious ready groups, plus 2,000 paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division. These are capable forces with a different set of options: amphibious assault, island seizure, special operations. They are not a carrier air wing. They project power differently, and for ground target operations, they may prove more relevant than another aircraft squadron. The longer-term question is what the Ford's absence signals about the durability of American carrier power. The Ford class was supposed to represent the next generation of U.S. naval dominance. Instead, its lead ship is spending 14 months in maintenance after less than a year in combat. If that timeline extends, which is possible given the complexity of first-class repairs, it will feed a debate inside the Navy about whether the Ford class was pushed into service before its systems were ready. That debate was already happening quietly. It will not be quiet much longer. The war in Iran is in its second month. More than 7,000 U.S. strikes have been conducted. Over 1,500 Iranian civilians are confirmed dead. Iran's supreme leader is gone. Its missile infrastructure is degraded. The Strait of Hormuz remains contested, and the most advanced warship ever built is in Crete being repaired. None of this has a clean resolution in sight. Peace talks are being conducted through Pakistan as an intermediary. Both sides publicly deny that formal negotiations are occurring. Meanwhile, the clock on the Ford's repairs keeps running. If you want to follow this story as it develops, every update, every shift, everything the official briefings leave out, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because in a conflict this layered, the details that emerge in the next 30 days will matter more than anything said today. The story doesn't end here. It evolves, and when it does, you'll want to be first to know.